On the horizon, thick smoke billows from a sabotaged gas pipeline. This is the war zone that Homs has become.
CNN's Arwa Damon, Neil Hallsworth and Tim Crockett are in Babarama, a neighbourhood that's endured constant shelling, where civilians are killed and wounded every day, where a makeshift clinic tries to help.
We're here with Dr. Muhammad, who has actually been on numerous YouTube videos throughout this uprising, and now we're actually getting a first-hand look of exactly what he and his team are up against. A 30-year-old man lies on the brink of death after shrapnel hit him in the head.
ما قدمت له شيء عبارة عن خياطة للجرح بس مشان المادة الدماغية ما تطلع وحطيت له تيوب هو عبارة عن أنبوب أنفي هذا بس مشان ينزح الدم من الداخل.
He will die if he doesn't get out.
Dr. Muhammad is one of only 2 doctors in this clinic. The other is actually a dentist.
You know, Dr. Muhammad, he's not some sort of front-line trained in emergency surgery combat medic. He's an internal medicine specialist.
Your GP.
Yeah, and now, I mean, look at what he's dealing with. Look at the casualties he's dealing with, the kind of casualties he's dealing with, the way he's had to cope, and the fact that it's day in and day out for him. It's relentless. The doctor is just saying that this is a patient that has to get outside of Baba Ahmed within 24 hours, or else his leg most definitely is going to need to be amputated.
You saw some horrific wounds, all of you, in these places. The guy with the leg wound that you were saying was starting to smell.
Yeah, his name was Muhammad Noor, and he was actually wounded, and this is how a lot of people have been getting wounded. Artillery strike happens, people get wounded in the street, other people run out to help them, and then the second shell. So he got wounded when a second shell struck. At this point, you can smell the rot coming from the wound. This patient has been lying here like this for 4 days now.
Arwa interviewed one of the doctors, the few doctors that was taking care of people that were being wounded in this onslaught. And he started to cry.
طبعا هاي حالة عاشت هذا الإنسان عاش ما زال طيبا معظم الحالات التي تصلنا بتر أطراف بتلاقي الحالة عم يموتوا بعد ساعة أو ساعتين لأنه ما بنقدر نسوي له شيء.
Here's one doctor, one man in there crying out on a daily basis that he needs help, his patients needs help. He's seen who knows how many people at this point in time die because he can't give them what they need. Lack of equipment, lack of experience, lack of medicine, and they can't get them out.
The clinic is really many clinics spread throughout the city, and moving from location to location is perilous.
This is how they have to move around just a short distance to get from one location to the other where they have the patient. 6 patients were killed in this building after a strike. The shelling is relentless. What they've had to do, because the clinics keep getting targeted, is try to distribute the patients around. So they have a number of houses in the vicinity where they also have these makeshift clinics as well.
What's it like filming that?
Well, you've got to be respectful, so it's kind of tough filming to actually, one, show how bad it actually is, but 2, not get intrude too much. So, you know, it is tough.
Every patient is desperate to tell their story by any means possible. This man tracing the shape of a tank on the wall.
This here is Abbad, and he's been drawing, trying to explain to us what happened because he's in so much agony he can't speak. He is one of the cameramen who goes out, risks his life all the time. It's some of his clips that we constantly see posted to YouTube and broadcast. And he's been drawing 2 tanks and explaining how he was moving down the street across from them when they fired at him.
I've seen injuries and wounds equally as nasty in my career, but I think what really struck me was the fact that they had nothing. A few medicines and dressings and stuff on shelves. Other than that, there was nothing to deal with the kinds of wounds that they were getting.
Aboudi was a 19-year-old young man. We saw him outside the clinic. He was barely hanging on. There was this young woman who was treating him. She was just 27 years old. She also was a volunteer medic. They just had 2 weeks of training. And you could hear the anger, the frustration, the sorrow, the sheer emotion in her voice when she was talking about how this was a young man just at the beginning of his life. He was actually engaged to be married. And he had volunteered to help the wounded, and all of a sudden he'd found himself in the hospital bed as well.
Just hours after this video was taken, Aboudi died. As did the 30-year-old with the severe head wound.
You get angry that people have the capability to do this to one another, that people are suffering, and that there's nothing that one can do to ease their pain. There's no way to fix their situation.
But there is some good news. At least 2 of the men in the CNN team's report are alive. Abad, who communicated through drawing, made it to a hospital in Lebanon. So too did Mohammed Noor.
He did actually manage to get out, but not in time. The last I heard was that, yes, his leg was going to have to be amputated.
What may never be known are the fates of hundreds of other people who were unable or unwilling to flee.
It was so indiscriminate, it was so widespread, and it's hard to put into words, but every single person that you meet there has gone through something so horrific. No other human being would ever want to go through it.